3 spine-chilling true stories of unexplained terrors exposed when police failed to help. Lisa's heart was pounding like a war drum. She was just a mile or so from her quiet suburban home when her phone rang. Emma's voice crackled through, urgent and terrified. "Mom. There's someone outside. It sounds like they're breaking in." A chill clawed up Lisa's spine. Thoughts flashed through her mind, dark and twisted memories of the past haunted her. An intruder in her safe haven? Panic boiled inside her. She stepped harder on the gas, racing through the eerily empty streets of Springfield, the moonlight providing a ghostly glow and casting long shadows that danced across her windshield. Branches whipped against her car like skeletal fingers clawing for help. Lisa fought against suffocating fear, her thoughts spiraled into nightmarish scenarios. What could Emma be facing? What if she wasn't safe? It felt like the air had thickened around her, pushing her further into anxiety with every heartbeat. She kept her eyes glued on the darkened houses as if they held clues to her daughter's safety. Outside her window, a flickering streetlight buzzed ominously, like a warning siren in the night. Just as she pulled up to the house, the horror of the situation crashed through her, arising from the shadows, almost a specter flicking between reality and her twisted imagination. As Lisa parked, she spotted something out of the corner of her eye, a shadow flitting past the window. She drove fast, clambered out, and bolted towards the door. Each clattering footstep echoed in her ears, amplifying her dread. "Emma!" She called into the silence, her voice shaky, a fragile thread in the dark. The porch light flickered, casting an unsettling glow. Lisa's fingers trembled as they fumbled for the keys. They jangled like a million alarm bells in her ears. The comforting image of her quaint home twisted into something sinister. She pushed the door open, a slow creak that felt as loud as a gunshot in the deafening night. Silence. Only the haunting whisper of the wind and the anxious beat of her heart. "Emma?" She rasped, edging forward, heart racing with primal fear. That was when she saw him, the neighbor, Mr. Dalton, lurking right outside the window. His familiar yet menacing silhouette sent shockwaves through her. "Emma, lock yourself in the bathroom. Now!" Lisa shrieked, adrenaline flooding through her veins. But what if he wasn't who he seemed? What if he was something darker, hidden behind the friendly facade he wore during sunny afternoons at the park? Terrible whispers of rumors swirled in her head, fragments of conversations that twisted the usually kindly neighbor into something far more frightening. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. She gathered her senses and made a rush towards the living room. The walls closed in, the air felt heavy. Emma's whimpers echoed in her mind, haunting and desperate. Time seemed to stretch infinitely. The uncertainty clawed at her. What if she could only arrive a moment sooner? Heart racing, she glanced through the kitchen window, and there he was again, Mr. Dalton's eyes locked onto her, a distorted grin splitting his face. The figure she thought to be harmless now hovered between the line of sanity and horror. The darkness drew closer, clutching at her throat. Lisa must now venture into the labyrinth of her home's dim corners, her sanctuary, now transformed into a trap. What awaited her? What lies nestled within? She could feel the overwhelming dread crush her spirit, as Emma's safety hung in the balance. Now, Lisa stood at the crossroads of terror. She could no longer hide. She had to confront her greatest fears or lose everything. Which side would she choose as the clock ticked menacingly on? Lisa's heart raced as she edged further into the gloomy living room. Shadows loomed ominously, stretching over the furniture like predatory beasts. Each creak of the floor felt like an invitation to whatever monstrosity lurked nearby. Emma's small whimper, muffled but persistent, came from the bathroom, a lifeline in the suffocating darkness. "Hold on, sweetie," she called out, her voice barely above a whisper. She was trying to sound brave, but terror twisted her insides like a twisted knot. The air was thick with silence, broken only by the erratic thumping of her heart. Every corner of the house transformed from familiar warmth into a chilling stranger ready to engulf her. Peering cautiously into the kitchen, Lisa held her breath. The moonlight streamed through the window, illuminating the room but casting grotesque shadows that danced along the walls. There was no sign of Mr. Dalton, but she felt him like a prickling sensation along her skin. Was he still out there, waiting, his grin lurking just outside her field of vision? She turned her focus back to her daughter, taking a calculated step toward the bathroom door. With each step, the floor protested under her weight, groaning like a living entity warning her to turn back. But she wouldn't. She couldn't fail Emma. "Emma, honey? I'm here," she called, voice steadying as she reached for the doorknob. It felt ice cold in her palm, biting her skin. She hesitated. What if Mr. Dalton wasn't just outside but already inside? The monster wearing a friendly face might be lurking in the very place she thought safest. Steeling herself, Lisa swung the door wide open. The bathroom was empty, save for the faint light from a single flickering bulb illuminating the small space. Emma was nowhere to be found. "Emma?" Panic flooded her voice. Adrenaline surged as she scanned the room, hope fading by the second. The empty bathtub and the tattered shower curtain seemed to mock her silent plea. Where could she have gone? Sprinting back to the hall, Lisa's mind raced. Where else could she hide? The closet? No, too small. The attic? It would take too long to check. Just then, the sounds outside caught her attention, a soft scuffle and whispering. She pressed her ear to the wall, heart pounding, trying to decipher the chilling words. "Let me in, I know you're there." The voice was low and rich, rough like gravel, yet it had an eerie sweetness that made her skin crawl. Lisa's breath quickened. Who could it be? She felt weak, paralyzed by uncertainty. Could it be Mr. Dalton? Or someone far worse? "Mom!" came a small, breathy whisper from the hallway. Lisa spun around, eyes wide, searching for the source of the voice. Had she imagined it? The chilling laugh from outside sent shivers down her spine. "Stay in the bathroom!" she shouted, filled with wild determination. But there was no response. The world outside roared with the tempest of the uncertain night, rattling the windows, each gust a sinister reminder that turmoil lurked beyond her walls. Was it safe? Were there more shadows creeping closer, plotting to break apart the fragile fabric of her life? A crash echoed from outside, shattering the moment. Lisa ducked instinctively, her heart racing again. Fear propelled her to the front window, peering out just in time to see Mr. Dalton sprint away into the night, disappearing in the shimmering blackness between the trees. But he was gone, she could feel it. The weight of the night bore down on her, a predator circling its prey. Lisa had to decide, confront the terror outside or find Emma before it was too late. As she slowly returned to the bathroom, a horrifying thought gripped her: what if Emma had already been taken? The air crackled with unyielding dread as she pushed the bathroom door open once more. Her worst fear was waiting inside. What had she missed? What lay hidden just beyond her grasp? The bathroom felt colder than before, the flickering bulb casting erratic shadows that seemed to dance with malicious glee. Lisa stepped inside, fear coiling tighter in her chest. An echo of the earlier whimpers haunted her, mocking her determination. "Emma," she called again, voice trembling now as she scanned every inch of the small space. Panic surged like a tidal wave, pulling her under. Was she losing her grip on sanity? Perhaps her baby truly was gone, spirited away by the darkness that loomed outside. Just then, a soft rustling behind the shower curtain pulled her focus. It was slight, barely a breeze. With trembling hands, she gripped the edge of the curtain. "Emma?" she whispered, hoping against all hope. What if it wasn't Emma? What if it was something worse? Slowly, she pulled it back. The curtain slid with a drawn-out creak, revealing nothing but an empty tub. Relief warred with fear, leaving her breathless. She reached inside, expecting to find the comforting touch of her daughter, but only the cool porcelain met her palm. Suddenly, a loud thud echoed through the house, rattling the walls. Lisa's heart jumped. Her instincts screamed, "Get out!" But she needed to find Emma, needed to know for sure her daughter was safe. As she turned to leave, the air shifted. A sound emerged from deep in the corners of the house, a low rumble that felt like a growl. She froze, heart pounding furiously in her chest. "Who's there?" she shouted, trying to sound fierce, but her voice cracked. Silence responded, thick and suffocating. With each step toward the hallway, the atmosphere grew heavier, thick with unseen eyes watching her. She weaved through the living room, pulse racing, scanning for any sign of Emma or the monster that had upended their lives. "Emma!" she cried out again, but only the shadows answered. The front window rattled violently as another gust of wind howled outside. It felt like the very house was screaming, shrieking at her to flee. But she couldn't just run. Not now. Not when her daughter might still be here. A figure darted past the window, a mere flicker at the corner of her vision. Dread twisted deep inside her. Was it Mr. Dalton? Or was it Emma? Something crashed in the kitchen, and she was propelled forward, drawn against her better judgment. She switched her attention there, inching toward the doorway. Her hands trembled as she reached for the frame, almost expecting it to lurch back at her like a caged beast. What she found instead left her breathless. A dark shape loomed by the kitchen counter. It swayed slightly, a grotesque parody of life. Her heart raced. "Emma?" she called, her voice a mere whisper, but the figure didn't respond. Then it turned, very slowly. Shadows danced across its face, a face that was all too familiar. It was like staring into the abyss. "Mr. Dalton." "No," she gasped, stepping back instinctively. "What do you want? Where is my daughter?" The words spilled from her mouth, panic at every syllable. He just smiled, an eerie, sinister grin that sent icicles of dread stabbing through her heart. "You called for her, didn't you?" His voice was smooth, almost mocking, but with an undercurrent of something darker. Before she could reply, the lights flickered and went out completely, plunging the kitchen into darkness. Lisa's breath hitched as she felt the walls constrict, the air closing in. "What's happening?" she whispered, fear twisting her stomach into knots. The darkness laughed. It bubbled up like a dark tide, creeping closer. And then she heard it, a soft whimper coming from the depths of the darkness, barely audible but unmistakable. "Mom?" Her heart leaped at the sound. "Emma!" Lisa shouted desperately, summoning every ounce of courage she had left. But the darkness pressed into her, a heavy blanket of despair. "Let us play a game," Mr. Dalton whispered, his voice slithering through the gloom. "Find her before she disappears." With the feeling of cold dread clawing at her, Lisa had no choice but to plunge into the night, to confront whatever twisted fate awaited. What lay ahead remained shrouded in uncertainty, but she now understood. Time was slipping away, and so was Emma. Would she find her daughter in time, or were they both just pawns in a game far more sinister? Lisa stumbled forward, swallowed by the oppressive darkness that felt alive, shifting as if it were a creature waiting to devour her whole. Each step was a battle against her instincts that screamed at her to turn back. The air tasted stale, thick with something that felt like despair. Her fingers brushed against the cold, rough wall as she navigated through the kitchen, searching for the crushing weight of fear that had become her companion. "Emma!" she called again, her voice a fraying thread against the silence. She felt the walls press in on her as if they were closing up, forcing her back into whatever nightmare lurked inside her mind. A low chuckle echoed in the gloom, and she froze. Was it Dalton's sickening laughter, or something worse, something that wanted to toy with her? The whimper came again, this time louder and closer. Lisa's frayed hope surged forward, urging her to move. "Emma, where are you?" she cried, straining to make out anything in the suffocating blackness. Suddenly, a shuffling noise erupted from behind her, followed by the distinct sound of feet dragging across the floor, slow and deliberate. She turned, squinting into the dark, every instinct warning her to run, but all she could do was hold her ground. "Show yourself!" she shouted, the force of her voice surprising even her. Silence answered, dragging itself out as seconds stretched into an eternity. Then, almost as if mocking her defiance, a soft voice floated back, distorted and thick like molasses. "Mommy, I'm scared, Emma." The word burst from her lips, igniting a fierce determination within her. She pressed deeper into the shadows, searching for the source of that voice. Each inch felt dangerously exposed, every breath a whisper of lurking horrors. As she reached the edge of the kitchen, Lisa felt a flicker of movement. She spun, barely catching sight of a figure darting toward the hallway. "Stop!" she yelled, but the shape melted into the walls, eluding her grasp. Fear tightened around her heart like a vice. The whimper grew faint, like an echo fading in the wind. Panic surged anew, a hot wave crashing over her. She turned and sprinted toward the hallway, each step heavier than the last, as if the shadows were reaching out to snatch her back. And then she saw it, a faint glow, a flicker of light at the far end of the hall. "Emma!" she shouted again, her hope reigniting as she raced forward. But as she neared, the light pulsed erratically, flickering as if struggling against some unseen force. With shaking hands, she reached for the doorknob, her heart pounding like a war drum. What if she opened it to a nightmare? What if it was empty? Biting her lip, she steeled herself and twisted the knob. The door swung open with a slow creak, revealing a dimly lit room that felt both familiar and alien. It was Emma's room, her toys scattered, the bed unmade, yet everything felt wrong, like a photograph out of focus. "Emma?" she whispered, stepping inside. The air was thick, stifling, and she felt an icy tendril of dread slither down her spine. Then she saw it. A figure crouched in the corner, shadows clinging to it like a shroud. It looked up, and Lisa's blood ran cold. It wasn't Emma. Mr. Dalton loomed there, eyes shining like twin coals, marred with twisted delight. He held something small and fragile in his hands, a doll, one that looked disturbingly like Emma. "She couldn't find her way back," he cooed in a sickly sweet tone that tightened the knot of fear in her stomach. Lisa staggered backward, breath catching in her throat. "You monster!" she cried, feeling the walls constrict around her, the darkness pulsating with menace. "Game over, Lisa," he replied, his voice low and mocking. "But you still have a chance." Before she could comprehend his words, the room began to warp, the walls shifting with unnatural life. Shadows lengthened, stretching toward her, and the ground seemed to tilt beneath her feet. She turned to flee, instinct propelling her forward, but something cold slipped around her ankle, dragging her back. "Emma!" she screamed, desperate for her daughter, desperate to escape, but the darkness came rushing in, engulfing her, drowning her panic beneath a thick tide of shadow. "Mommy! Help me!" "No, please, no." The last shred of light faded as Lisa was pulled under. The darkness swallowed her scream, leaving only the laughing echoes of Mr. Dalton and the haunting cries of her daughter. Would she find her way back to Emma, or had she just stepped into a realm from which no one returned? Lisa plunged into the whirlpool of darkness, her body suspended in a void where time and space tangled together. The only sound was the relentless echo of her heart, pulsing a frantic rhythm that resonated with the fear wrapping around her like chains. She blinked, willing the shadows to reveal a path, a way back to Emma, but the blackness shimmered, teasing her senses as it twisted around her. Suddenly, she felt herself tumble forward. Eyes wide, she gasped as the air was ripped from her lungs. The world settled with a harsh thud, and she found herself sprawled on the cold floor of the living room. It was familiar, yet grotesque, a warped echo of the safety she once knew. The furniture stood at unnatural angles, as if some unseen force had reshaped her sanctuary into a distorted nightmare. Emma. A raw desperation clawed its way out of her throat. The sound was swallowed by the oppressive silence that blanketed the room. From a corner, the shadows shifted, not behaving like darkened corners should. "Mommy," the voice was sweet yet laden with anguish, a chilling blend that struck her like ice. It was Emma. Lisa's heart ignited with renewed hope, but it was immediately snuffed out as the figure stepped out. That it wasn't Emma. It was another child, pale and gaunt, eyes reflecting a sharp, unnatural light. "Don't go," the words hung in the air, a binding charm that kept Lisa rooted to the floor. Her instinct screamed to flee, but her body betrayed her, paralyzed by the child's gaze. Something flickered within the child's eyes, not innocence, but a knowing that resonated with the darkness lapping at her heels. "What do you want?" Lisa whispered, fear knotting her stomach. "Help us," the child replied, as if the words were drawn out from places deep within the shadows. Lisa felt a shift in the surrounding air, like the room had inhaled, ready to exhale something dreadful. "Where is Emma?" she demanded, forcing her feet to move back a step. The shadows slithered closer, wrapping around her ankles like cold fingers. Fear gripped her as she noticed the child's mouth twitch into a grin. "Emma is lost," the figure murmured, and for an instant, the darkness around them pulsed, swirling with sinister energy. "But you can help her find the way," the walls creaked, leaning in as if listening intently to their exchange. Lisa's heart thundered in her ears, drowning out every thought. "How? What do I need to do?" "Follow the whispers," the child said, each word slicing through the silence like metal on bone. And then, from deeper within the dark corners of the room, whispers began to rise, slithering voices, half-formed sentences that beckoned her closer. The words wrapped around her, seductive and sinister, pulling at her resolve. "Help Emma know." The denial burst from Lisa's lips, a final barrier against the mounting horror. But even as she spoke, she felt the shadows tightening, craving her compliance. With a lurching gasp, Lisa broke free and stumbled backward, fear-tinged adrenaline surging in her veins. She spun around, determined to escape the chilling child and its call, but the whispers grew louder, a cacophony of desperate pleas clawing at her mind. "Mommy, please. Help." She felt herself slamming into the wall. The wallpaper was cold, slick with moisture as realization struck. The shadows weren't just a blanket, they were alive, a sentient mass hiding dangerous secrets. Her breaths came quick and haunted. If she didn't move now, she might never get the chance. With every ounce of strength, Lisa fought against the whispers, against the pull of the child in the dark. "I want to listen," she barked, forcing her will against the terror wrapping tighter around her. But the shadows laughed, a low, growling sound that shook her very bones. They slithered forward, blocking the exit from this unending nightmare. Lisa's heart sank. There was no way out. Would she too become a lost soul, forever lingering in the depths of this unknown darkness? And then a piercing scream cut through the shadows, a scream so loaded with anguish that it shook the very foundation of her sanity. It was Emma's voice. In that moment, everything shifted. "Help me, Mommy." The new wave of determination crashed over Lisa. If she could reach her daughter, she would risk everything. With a jolt, she vaulted back into the deeper shadows, ignoring the claws of dark tendrils grasping at her ankles. She would follow the chaos of whispers if it meant finding Emma. But what awaited her within that labyrinth of horror was a truth that might shatter her soul. In that moment of dread, as fear collided with love, she plunged headlong into the abyss. What awaited her? Something primal, something powerful looming in the dark, the line separating hope from despair blurred even further. What horrors waited just beyond the veil? The air thickened around Lisa as the last echoes of Emma's scream reverberated in her ears. Shadows coiled around her like snakes, suffocating and relentless. She felt a surge, a raw need to find her daughter, pushing her further into the dark. The whispers clawed at her, crashing like waves, desperate chants that twisted sanity itself. "Help us!" the child's voice persisted, a chilling echo that seemed to slide along her spine. "Bring her back!" Lisa stumbled forward, the murky darkness swallowing her whole. Each step felt as if she were trudging through molasses, the whispers growing louder, more insistent. "Emma!" she shouted, her voice shaking. Panic gnawed at her chest as she fought to remain grounded amidst the surrounding madness. Suddenly, a flicker of light pierced the shadows. A soft glow beckoned from the hallway, illuminating just enough to reshape her surroundings. The distorted furniture warped into something familiar. It was her home, or at least a version of it. The warmth of the light reached out, contrasting the cold tendrils that still gripped her ankles. "Mommy!" Emma's voice wafted in, haunting yet hopeful. It flowed like a melody, drawing Lisa toward the shimmer. She could almost see Emma now, her daughter's silhouette dancing within the glow. Ignoring the child in the corner who watched with wide, luminous eyes, Lisa pushed herself against the looming darkness. She dashed toward the light, but it faded with every step, leaving a sense of dread clinging to her skin. "Help us!" the pale child repeated, its voice growing sharper, more urgent. "You can't leave!" With each word, the shadows retaliated, reaching for Lisa with an energy that chilled her to the bone. Dread coiled tight as she fought to resist, but the pull of the child's desperate plea anchored her. "Emma!" she screamed, channeling every last ounce of resolve. She would not be lured deeper into this nightmare. Breathing rapidly, she lunged toward the hallway, the light flickering like a dying star. Suddenly, the air turned frigid. A figure stepped out of the darkness. It was Emma, yet the girl's features were twisted and shadowed, as if layered beneath glassy skin. "Help me!" The plea sent jolts of ice down Lisa's back, intertwining love with unfathomable horror. "Emma?" Her voice trembled, words falling from her lips like shards of broken glass. The resemblance was uncanny, yet wrong. This creature wore her daughter's face, but there was no warmth, no light in those eyes. Lisa took a hesitant step back, unsure whether to reach out or run. "Mommy, please!" The plea was now a howl, reverberating through the thick, musty air. The darkness around Emma bubbled and writhed, swirling like smoke into a malignant cloud. The gaunt child grinned wider, revealing rows of jagged teeth that seemed to pulse with shadow. "You can't save her. Join us!" The shadows writhed in joy, their whispers now a dark anthem, an orchestra of malice celebrating her torment. Lisa's heart raced. The walls seemed to close in as if the very house sought to consume her, to pin her to the ground and drown her in despair. She could feel the tears springing to her eyes, mixing with fear and confusion. "No!" she shrieked, too loud, too desperate. "I won't lose you, Emma." In that moment, the light around her flickered back to life. Clarity burst through the fog. She reached for the shimmering glow, but it felt just out of reach, slipping away like grains of sand. "I have to fight," she thought fiercely, but one final scream echoed, a sound so dissonant it shattered her resolve. It rose from the maw of darkness. "Mommy! He's coming!" A shadow loomed larger, coalescing from the void, a dark figure that radiated malice and intent. Lisa's breath caught. Just as she steadied herself, grief replaced clarity. "Help me!" The shadows writhed, converging. As she felt the first tendrils wrap around her wrist, Lisa realized with a sickening twist that this nightmare was about to reveal its true, horrifying nature. What was this entity, and what did it want with her? As she faced the encroaching darkness, a terrible chilling thought settled within her mind: was it already too late to save Emma? The question echoed in her heart, amplifying her dread. Whatever loomed in the shadows was closing in, and Lisa was on the brink of an unknown horror. Could she escape, or would she join the lost souls forever trapped in this living nightmare? The world around Lisa warped further, solidifying into a nightmarish panorama. Shadows twisted into grotesque forms, seeming to laugh in glee as they tightened their grip around her. Her wrist felt like ice, vision narrowing into a tunnel of swirling dread. "Mommy!" Emma's voice called again, but this time it echoed from nowhere and everywhere, sending shivers coursing down Lisa's spine. She clutched her head as the words bounced off the walls, layering over one another in a dissonant cacophony that blurred her thoughts. The room felt alive with malice, a twisted monster that hungered for her despair. "Don't listen!" The pale child with luminous eyes screeched, its mouth stretching impossibly wide. "You're too late." Lisa fought back a wave of terror, pushing against the dark tendrils that wrapped around her ankle like snakes. "Shut up!" She screamed, her voice raw, crazed with anger and fear. Desperation fueled her movement. She yanked her arm free from the first grip, adrenaline pounding in her ears. "Run!" The thought pierced through the haze. But where would she go? Home was filled with shadows, danger lurking in the corners, each doorway a portal to the unknown. This was a trap designed to ensnare her at every turn. Yet, she couldn't stay rooted to the spot, allowing the shadows to drown her in their despair. Gritting her teeth, Lisa darted toward the flickering light, hoping it would lead her back to Emma. The floorboard creaked beneath her feet, sounding like a mourning wail beneath the weight of her desperation. She almost tumbled, catching herself just in time as the shadows lunged again, snapping at her ankles with insatiable hunger. "Mommy, help!" Emma's voice distorted into a shriek, ringing out like a bell of doom. Lisa pressed ahead, eyes wide, tears spilling down her cheeks as she sprinted down the hall. The walls closed in, dark shadows crawling closer, consuming all traces of light. The whispers crescendoed into a maddening roar. "Join us!" they cried, echoing in her mind. The light appeared again, stronger this time, like a lighthouse in a storm. Relief surged through Lisa, but it was short-lived as the shadows twisted, forming a dark wall that seemed determined to block her escape. "Emma!" She screamed once more, but the hallway continued to morph, pulling her deeper into the bowels of this hellish place. She changed direction, desperately seeking any opening, any chance to escape the weight of the darkness. With each frantic step, she felt the pull of the shadows increasing, as if they had become sentient, hungry for her despair. "I want to let you take me," she chanted, voice hoarse, each word a prayer for strength. Then, a figure emerged from the darkness, towering and grotesque. It was a man, but his face was obscured by shadows, save for piercing eyes that glowed with an unholy light. "You belong here," it whispered, voice a chilling breeze that chilled Lisa down to her marrow. "No!" Lisa shouted, instinctively raising her hands as if to shield herself. But the figure stepped forward, and the air thickened. "Use her!" He laughed, a sound that echoed mockingly throughout the halls. The room spun as Lisa's breath quickened. She stumbled back, her resolve faltering. "Emma, where are you?" She choked out, terror pooling in her stomach, swirling with every heartbeat. "He will find you," sang the pale child, voice dripping with dark delight. "You can't escape, not until you've made a choice." What choice? What did they want from her? Just then, a moment of clarity broke through the chaos. Something flickered in the corner of her vision, the light. It pulsed, inviting her like a beacon, promising safety. Without thinking, Lisa dove toward it, heart pounding as the shadows clawed at her back, their whispers now a frantic chorus. As she reached the threshold, just a hand's breadth away from that shimmering escape, something seized her foot. She screamed as the tendrils pulled her back, the world swaying violently. The figure loomed closer, darkness swirling as his whispered threats enveloped her. "Join us, let her go," Lisa gasped, feeling her breath hitch. Shadows danced cruelly before her as everything went pitch black. A scratchy hiss filled her ears, drowning out her cries. What choice would she have to make? In that moment of terror, one terrifying thought consumed her: what if letting go meant losing Emma forever? What awaited her in the darkness? If she surrendered to it, what would she truly become? The darkness enveloped Lisa, a suffocating shroud that held her in its grip. The air crackled with a tension thick enough to choke her. She could barely breathe, every gasping breath feeling like it would be her last. Shadows slithered around her limbs like cold fingers gripping at her very essence. Help! Her voice broke, desperation clawing at her throat. The shadowy figure hovered just outside her periphery, an ominous presence looming like a predator ready to strike. Its whispered promises curled around her mind, seductive yet terrifying. Just let go, it's easier. She shook her head violently, trying to clear the fog that threatened to drown her. No! She cried out defiantly, summoning the strength she had left. You can't have me. The whispers amplified, echoing endlessly, a chorus of torment. They knew her fears, her hopes. They twisted each into a blade that cut deeper, deeper. Join us, make the choice, give in. Every plea pushed her further into a panic, her heart racing wildly as she battled against the invisible chains binding her to this nightmare. She thought of Emma, her sweet girl, lost in this terrifying void, and it stoked a small flame of determination within her. Then, a light flickered to life again in the distance, brighter than before. It pulsed, and hope shot through Lisa like lightning. She could almost hear Emma's laughter in its shimmering glow. Emma! I'm coming! For a moment, the shadows recoiled, as if the light scared them. Lisa dove toward it, limbs moving with a frantic urgency. She felt the darkness slipping from her fingers, that icy grip loosening as she surged forward. But with every leap toward salvation, the shadows retaliated. They surged forward, a wave of darkness determined to consume her. You can't escape, you will make the choice. They screeched, their hungry voices rising to a thunderous roar. Something cold clutched her ankle again, rendering her movements useless. She stumbled, fear crashing over her as she fell hard against the floor. The light flickered but didn't fade, it bore witness to her struggle. Emma! She screamed, the name raw on her tongue, tears spilling down her face. I can't leave you. I can't. The pale child reappeared, standing just beyond the threshold of the light, eyes glowing with a twisted innocence. You have to choose, Mommy, it sang, tilting its head. Us or her? What does that mean? A tremor coursed through her body. The weight of the decision pressed down as if it were physically crushing her. Choose your love or your freedom. The shadows whispered incessantly, biting at her resolve, weaving a tapestry of dark temptations and horrible losses. A vision of Emma, standing alone, tears streaming down her cheeks, filled Lisa's mind. I want to let you take her. I'd rather die than choose you. The figure's laughter rang out, a deep, rumbling sound that sent ice down Lisa's spine. Then you will suffer. Suddenly, a sharp pain lanced through her, pulling her back into the abyss. She looked up, gasping as shadows clawed at her skin, dragging her deeper into their nightmarish grasp. She could almost feel Emma's little hand slipping out of hers, the fear in her daughter's eyes. The darkness rippled, whispering promises of freedom if only she would sever the bond. No. Never. Lisa screamed, the words tearing from her throat with every ounce of strength she possessed. She wouldn't let go, not now, not ever, but chaos erupted, shadows swirling furiously as the thin tether of their connection strained to the breaking point. Lisa forced her eyes open, heart pounding, mind racing. The light dimmed, flickering as if it too were losing hope. The shadows began to close in, hungry for her doubt, ready to claim her as their own. Make the choice. The darkness howled, rising to a fever pitch, and as the world around her spiraled, the echo of shadows tightened. Was this the moment she'd been dreading? Would she truly have to decide between her love and her own survival? The light flickered one last time, then everything plunged into darkness again, leaving nothing but silence. As the void filled her senses, one thought pierced through the chaos: if shadows thrived on fear, perhaps they could be defeated in a way she had never anticipated. Would she discover a hidden power within herself, or would she succumb to despair? What must she face next? Lisa's heart raced as the silence wrapped around her, an oppressive blanket stifling her cries. It felt like each second stretched into eternity. Her breath came in ragged gasps, echoing in the void, an unwelcome reminder of her current reality. Then, amidst the overwhelming darkness, a whisper slithered through the air, soft yet distinct. "Choose," it repeated, as if the shadows themselves were taunting her. The voice was deceptively gentle, coaxing her into submission like a serpent luring its victim. She clenched her fists, fighting back the rising tide of despair that threatened to pull her under. "I will not give in," she hissed, forcing the words through gritted teeth. But her defiance felt fragile against the looming power of the shadows. With a sudden jolt, her surroundings shifted. The darkness receded, twisting into tortured shapes that coalesced into something more recognizable. She stood in the deserted hallway of her childhood home, the walls lined with faded photographs. Someone had once loved her here. Now, the memories danced tauntingly before her eyes, flaring to life only to be swallowed back into the shadows. "Mommy," a sweet voice trailed behind her, gentle like a breeze but coated with an unsettling urgency. It was Emma, her voice trembling with something unspoken, an echo of innocence entwined in fear. "No!" Lisa called out, desperate, frantically turning. But the little girl was nowhere in sight, swallowed whole by the dark. The atmosphere thickened as a chilling gust swirled around her. The laughter of children rang out, mocking her. Emma, her friends, all distant, all hidden behind another layer of shadows. "You have to choose." A chorus sang, a blend of voices melding into something grotesque. Lisa pressed her palms against her ears, desperate to block them out. "Stop. Just let me find her." She needed Emma. The shadows were winning, encroaching on her mind like an invasive species, and she had to fight. She staggered down the hallway, driven by a singular resolve. "I can't choose between love and freedom, you monsters!" she yelled. Each step felt like wading through syrup, but she pushed onward. There was no other choice. A bright glimmer caught her eye, like a small flame flickering bravely against the dark. It emanated from the living room, its warmth inviting. Lisa rushed toward it. Was it the light she had seen before? Maybe it would provide clarity. As she entered the room, the light pulsed rhythmically. It illuminated a snapshot of her life, a Christmas tree decorated with mismatched ornaments, a family gathered, smiling at the camera. For a fleeting moment, happiness enveloped her. But then it shifted, the image distorted, twisted into a tableau of decay. The once cheerful gathering transformed into a scene of despair. The figures blurred and faded, replaced by shadows, twisted forms, crouching and writhing, hunger driving their chaotic dance. The laughter turned into a cacophony of screams, a testament to lost joy. "Everything you love will be lost," they chanted, their voices now a single, distorted entity. "Everything." "No!" Lisa screamed, shaking her head violently, fighting against their dark embrace. She forced herself to breathe, to focus. If she was losing her family, maybe there was a way to reclaim it. "Emma!" She shouted again, a prayer, a summon, a bond tethered to survival. "I choose to find her." The shadows surged, overwhelming her, but Lisa felt a flicker of something rising within her. Determination? Rage? It was a feeling she had buried long ago. With every ounce of strength, Lisa screamed, "You don't own my love." The shadows recoiled as if stung, whispering angrily. And in that moment, she felt warmth course through her veins, the strength of a mother fighting for her child. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the darkness, cloaked and reeking of despair. "Then you will pay dearly for your folly," it rasped, eyes glowing like embers in the night. Lisa's heart thudded, fear clawing at her once more. But she squared her shoulders. The choice had been made. As the shadows closed in again, more Relentless than before, one question burned in her mind: what would the cost be to rescue Emma? The darkness charged forward, and Lisa braced herself for the worst. The darkness surged like a storm, wild and unforgiving, yet Lisa clung to the light pulsing within her. It felt like an unbreakable cord tying her to her daughter, a beacon refusing to be extinguished even as shadows clawed at her. "I will find you, Emma," she shouted defiantly, each word a talisman against despair. That fierce resolve ignited her spirit, and the shadows, sensing that their grip was faltering, recoiled as if burned. Lisa surged forward, propelled not only by her determination but by the chorus of memories, the laughter, the hugs, the endless love that had once filled their home. Suddenly, the ambush of the shadowy figure halted her in her tracks. It loomed larger than before, a grotesque caricature of everything dark and twisted that had feasted on her fears. "You are too late," it hissed, voice thick with venom. "What will you sacrifice to save her?" Inside, Lisa felt the warmth of love crackling like a flame, fighting against the icy grasp of dread. "I'll sacrifice everything," she screamed back. "You can't take my daughter. You can't take my love." In that moment, she felt her heart swell, a defiant roar ripping through the suffocating darkness. The shadows faltered. Lisa grasped the power within her, a mother's love forged into an incandescent light, radiating warmth and clarity. She could feel it pushing against the confines of her soul, spilling out into the bleak reality around her. With renewed vigor, she thrust herself forward, pushing toward that dark figure. "You don't scare me," she yelled, channeling all her anger and fear into every word. "You can twist my memories, turn my home into a nightmare, but you will not win." The entity howled, its voice quaking the very ground beneath her. "You cannot fight what you do not understand," it bellowed, shadows swirling violently in the air around it. But Lisa was undeterred. "I understand love, and I understand fear. But love is stronger." As she spoke, she drew deep breaths, each dragging her away from the weight of the shadows trying to suffocate her will. "Emma!" she cried out, pouring all her despair and hope into that single name. Then, without warning, the figure lunged. Lisa braced herself, knowing she couldn't back down. She felt the coldness of shadows wrapping around her arm, but she would not yield. "I choose to fight." At that moment, the walls around her trembled and warped, the very fabric of reality buckling under the force of her resolve. The light within exploded forth, radiating like the sun breaking through a storm. The darkness shuddered as the figure faltered, finally revealing the terrified form of Mr. Dalton. His face twisted in horror, melting into something human yet far from kindly. "You can't save her," he shrieked, breaking apart as light flooded the room, erasing the thick, choking shadows. But as the darkness recoiled, Lisa felt her breath catch. From somewhere deep within the dissipating shadows came a wail, a desperate plea not heard before, the unmistakable voice of her little girl. "Mommy!" The sound sliced through her heart like a blade, compelling her to act fast. "I'm coming for you, Emma." The darkness continued to crumble, each echo of Emma's voice weakening the shadows surrounding her. She rushed forward, leaping into the fading murk towards the light. The moment she crossed the threshold, familiar warmth enveloped her, spilling into every corner of her being. She blinked, adjusting to the brilliance as she recognized the space around her, the living room. Gazing frantically around, she called, "Emma?" Then, at the edge of her vision, she saw her. Emma stood trembling, looking lost yet defiant, caught between light and shadow. "Mommy!" she cried, tears streaming down her cheeks. Lisa dashed forward, arms outstretched. The two collided, and with that embrace, something magical happened. The shadows receded further, pulled away by the love radiating between them. In that harrowing moment, the bond between mother and daughter breached the darkness, casting a long shadow on their fears. The dim room brightened as memories of laughter, joy, and shared moments surged forth, filling the space with warmth and life. "I'm here, sweetie. I'm so sorry." Tears streamed down Lisa's face as she knelt to meet her daughter's trembling eyes. "I thought I lost you. But you found me," Emma whispered, her voice a gentle balm against the chaos. In that heartbeat, everything shifted. All the pain, the shadows, the twisted horror dissolved like mist in the morning sun. As their embrace tightened, they could feel the remnants of darkness fading, powerless against the warmth of their love, the world around them transformed back into what it was meant to be, a safe haven. The furniture reoriented to its rightful place, the air thick with the scent of fresh morning. Still, an echo of warning lingered, a reminder of how close they had come to losing everything. With Emma clutched in her arms, Lisa drew a slow, steady breath. "We're together now. And we're going to be okay." As the final remnants of darkness melted away, they could see the morning sun pierce through the windows, casting a golden glow over their home. It was time to rebuild, to leave the nightmares behind. Together, this terrifying ordeal was over, but its lessons remained vivid. They had faced the abyss, but love had proved stronger. Now, they could look forward to a future filled with hope, laughter, and fiercely protected love. But as Lisa held Emma, the chilling weight of never forgetting what lurked in the shadows hung quietly at the back of her mind. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for you to act on this thrilling journey. You need to subscribe immediately to ensure you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will send shivers down your spine. Smash that like button now and feed the algorithm. Your support is critical in bringing these heart-pounding narratives to life. And don't hold back, flood the comments section below with your reactions and your theories on Lisa's terrifying encounter. Your insight will help shape the future of this channel. Finally, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second. Only true fans understand the importance of showing love and support through these quick actions. Let us keep the chilling stories flowing together.